Hey everybody, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I'm so excited to share with you guys this adorable trifold card that I made for my hubby and my 12th wedding anniversary, which is this Sunday. And I think it came out super cute. It features two little puppies that are supposed to represent our Bandito and Babaloo. And I used a couple of sets of art impressions stamps and some new to me Viviva color sheets, which are watercolors that are presented in sheets that are super saturated. You can extend this color to be super light or super intense, and I can't wait to try this out. This is not a sponsored video, but I was given this Viviva's color sheets at no cost to me so I could try them out and share the results with you guys. So without further ado, here is my process video for how I made this anniversary card. So I'm starting with a base of Strathmore Bristol smooth surface paper because this paper is great for watercoloring, and because it's smooth, it makes a really great card base. So I cut down the sheet to 11 inches by, I think it was like 4.5. I'm going to put all the measurements for everything in my blog post, which will be linked in the description box below. And then I folded the sheet in thirds, and this is the base stamp set that I'm using. It's called Blessings to You Mini Trifold, or MTF, and just in the middle of the first panel, I'm going to stamp out the largest kind of environment stamp. And then it also comes with two dies to cut out the center hole areas of these images. And so I'm just taking some wire cutters and pulling apart the dies, trimming off the little nubs or excess of these dies. And then I'm going to be able to run it through my die cutting machine. It's really important that you take ths little fragments or nubbins kind of off before you run it through your die cutting machine. And if you need to, I sometimes actually run a metal file just to wear down anything that might still protrude out. And there I have run the larger of the two little dies through that image. And then I'm going to fold up the card and use a light pencil mark to outline where that opening is so that I can properly place the medium size stamp on the second panel of the card. And I want to make sure that the holes kind of line up so that it forms a nice little tunnel-like experience. And I'm taking the smaller die and again running that through my die cutting machine so that the holes will essentially line up. A little bit bigger on the first panel, a little bit smaller on the second panel, and then on the third panel is going to be the background stamped images of the two puppies. And this time I'm going to be using a light pencil mark to outline that second panel hole so that I can properly place the two little puppies. Now this stamp set, the Blessings to You MTF set, actually comes with a little bunny rabbit, but I am using a different art impression stamp set called the dog set and picked out two of the little puppies that I thought would look like my Bandito and Babaloo. So I stamped out the little sleeping puppy that I figured I would color up like Bandito because he's so sweet and a little older and more calm. So I stamped it out, and then I stamped it out again on a Post-it note piece of paper, and I'm fussy cutting that out so that I can do some layered stamping. And now I'm taking the puppy that's sitting up as if the puppy is behind the sleeping puppy. And when I remove that mask, you'll see that the second puppy is sitting behind the sleeping puppy. And now I'm erasing all those light pencil marks. I have to be careful and make sure that the ink has fully dried, otherwise it'll smear. And this is the Viviva color sheets. And this is the packaging that it came in. And this is the little booklet, which comes with 16 colors in this particular set. And I think that's plenty of colors. And I'm just going to go through and make a swatch sheet. My swatch sheets are actually on the scrap pieces of paper of Bristol cardstock that I had cut off for the card base. And you can see there's a protective sheet between each sheet of these color sheets so that the colors don't stick to each other, they don't smear on each other. And I'm just making these little swatches using a watercolor water paintbrush. And I'm just doing it in the order that they appear in the book. Off camera, I am wiping down the water brush onto a tissue so that there isn't further transfer. And you can see that the colors are very vibrant. There are a lot of oranges, yellows, and you might think that the colors look very similar through that orange-yellow section. But in fact, when you blend out the colors, they really change in tone. And in fact, one of the colors, that peacock, is really pretty because it changes as it dries. So I decided to use Persian blue and violet to color up these tulips. And I'm just using them directly on from the color sheets onto the Bristol cardstock. Sorry, using my water brush, but you can also just smear it onto some plastic or a palette so that you can extend the use of the colors and also do blending, which I'll show you in a little bit. Sorry, my dog is barking next to me. He wants his dinner. Anyway, it's really easy watercoloring. They blend really well. The colors are very intense, super saturated, and it makes it very easy to watercolor little images like this. So after the first layer of Persian blue dried, I decided to mix in some violet and get some color variation. Then I'm using the light green to color the leaves and the stems, and you can see it's coming out almost like a lime green. And then I'm going to use the sage green to color up some darker shadowed areas, the underside of these leaves, the outside edges of the stems. And again, these blend really, really easily. And I'm just extending the base a little bit here. I've decided I'm going to go ahead and color the stems of the tulips the same color as the leaves and the grass ground, and add some shadowed areas with that sage. And I decided that the leaves were still a little too light at this point, and that the flowers were overpowering the leaves and the stems. So I decided to add Viridian, and this really made the leaves and the grass pop. I really like how intense this green is. And again, you can blend it out so that it isn't quite so intense, but I wanted to kind of match the intensity of the tulip colors for the bases so that it didn't look like the flowers were kind of floating in air. And I think that that's the other thing that's wonderful about watercoloring is that, you know, it's so forgiving. You can blend and blend. And if your paper is strong enough, like this Bristol paper, you can really do lots of layering without worrying about the paper pilling. Now I decided to take this blue, and you can see I've got a palette there on the right, and I've watered it down so much that it creates a really pale purpley blue color, which is perfect for the background sky there. And I've decided to use that same watered down blue for the background of the inside of the card. This is behind the two puppies, and I'm just spreading it out all along the background. I'm just going to do it so that it looks like a cloudy blue sky. And then for the grass, I'm going to use that sage green, water it down a great deal also here. I wanted the puppies to be the focal point of the inside of this card, so I didn't want to make the sky or the grass too dark. Now I'm going to use magenta. You can see me blending it out there or watering it down a little bit. And you can see I flipped the image upside down because I wanted to lift up my water brush at the base of the flowers where it's coming off from the stem. And then for the leaves, I'm using that watered down green again, that sage green, and then adding a little hint of the Viridian, the more intense green, to add a little bit of depth there. And again, I'm blending it out so that it doesn't look, you know, too splotchy, but I'm adding more of that Viridian to add a little depth to those leaves. Now for the brown, there wasn't a brown in these color sheets, so I'm mixing the raw umber with a little bit of blue, and that makes it more of a chocolatey brown, which is Bandito's coloring. I'm coloring in his spots, and then with a very pale watered down of the same color, I'm adding the shadows. And then with the slate black, I'm adding the ear colors around for Babaloo's ears. And then I'm going to color up these yellow little flowers with the golden color, I think. And then also repeat that color for the centers of those drooping flowers. And then I decided to add a little bit of orange to those yellow flowers just to add some dimension. This is an old stamp set of dog sentiments that someone had gifted me years ago, and I absolutely love it. And one of the sentiments I thought would be perfect for this trifold. Half of the sentiment can be on the front panel, which is this section here. And you saw I've used a Post-it note to mask off one section. And then for the second panel, I'm using the second part of the sentiment. So the card reads, "Dogs are not our whole life, but they make our lives whole." And then for the inside sentiment, I didn't have happy anniversary in one set. So I picked up 2 words from the Neat and Tangled stamp set. Then I added a happily ever after from a Clearly Besotted stamp set to make the inside sentiment. I really like how this card came out. I hope you enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching.